Let's start with some simple announcements. I know I have not posted Tuesday's class. I have just been so busy, I have not been able to get to it. But to submit your work for Critique Hour, go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here. And it'll take you to our subreddit where you could submit everything: 14-day challenge, community challenges, personal work, studies, everything, and you'll get critiqued. And not just that, you know, you can critique others if you're not getting any critiques back. You just get the community that you can build, friends that you can find here that are all like-minded. They're all people that draw too. So if you're looking for people like you, they're here, and they're waiting to meet you. So it's not a dating site. So make sure that you you go here and you submit your work. And then if you are enjoying these classes and you want to give back, you can always join as a watcher on Patreon, just as $1. So if you'd like to support, please do. Patreon is a very simple, quick, pain-free way of just sending support to channels. It's what I use at the moment. If you don't want to use it, there's probably no avenue outside of it that I can find. But this is what's available for anyone who wants to help support the channel. So that's $1 a month for Critique Hour. And I know it's very little. It's almost like, why are you even asking for it? But it is a lot if everybody joins in, and it's an untraceable amount in your monthly bills. So it's not something substantial, and it's going in the way of free education, which is you know, very rare nowadays. So if you are interested in giving back, I really would appreciate it if everybody hopped on. And that's it. Let's get started with today's work. Oh, Portrait Studio is still on sale, and will be until fall, and then will be again in December. So there's going to be a break where Portrait Studio goes back to full price. I'm still not sure about that, just because, you know, the pandemic is still going, and I kind of just want to keep it affordable. It's just kind of pompous of me to make it full price during the pandemic where everyone's having issues and they can't even pay their bills. So I just wanted to, you know, work with it somehow. But I'll think about it, because a lot of people, you know, they really do want it, but it's a bit expensive at full price. And then, yeah, my brushes are also currently on sale. So everything is really super low. And the tutorials that I was gonna make and send out to you guys very soon, those will come out sometime in October and November, hopefully, fingers crossed. But let's get started. I was gonna take a look at these pieces. Any questions from anyone before I get started? You say that, but someone someday is gonna tell you they met their wife or husband on your subreddit. Who knows? Maybe. Who knows? They'd be lucky. But okay, so this piece, it's so cute and it's got so much potential, but there's something about it extremely boring and dull. And that's because you're dealing with water reflecting light in a beautiful foresty kind of rich, lush environment. You've got it all happening. Everything is happening here. And it seems like a very poor execution for all of these textural elements that are supposed to glow. The background green isn't harmonious with any of the other colors in the scene. And the water is colored turquoise, but there's no real, it's like a shallow tropical shore turquoise, but it's not really reading as water apart from the texture you're applying. So I'm gonna just do some changes here and there to help pull the illustration through. And one of the biggest changes I'm gonna make is just zooming out a little bit, because you're showing a lot of these textures and none of them are really working, because there's just not enough breathing room in between them. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm going to make it so that this big wave in between them is kind of tilting him a little bit, so he's a little bit lower on the canvas. It's not just a boring face-to-face horizontal canvas, one character each half. It's a little bit more skewed what you would expect out of a water scene where characters are floating around. You want the balance and the framing to be skewed as well. So we're not really throwing off the horizon line. It's not really a Dutch angle. It's definitely still reading as like a level camera, but it's not going to be super boring and kind of characters facing each other in a flat horizon and flat still water in this cute moment between the two of them. So I'm trying to do all of this really quickly. My lasso is on the dot today. No pun intended. And I'm disconnecting the background and bringing it back this way. So that's that foresty scene that I can now adjust to match with the level. All right, so we've got a lot of changes in this to pull off, so bear with me. And you got that dark, murky, swampy green that's really not helping the scene at all. So I'm getting rid of it. I'm not sure even what that is. Oh, that's his tail. Okay. And then the wave is doing that. And then, so light environment. So what does that mean? That means the background is incorporated into the color choice and value choices of the character. So first we have to identify exactly what time of day it is. What is it? What's going on? It's a forest in midday, sort of high saturation environment, warm greens, but not too warm, so that they could still read as jungle, and the value has to go up. So that means that it's not so much a silhouette, it's just a really, really nice, strong, direct light behind the character. And it's not only green, there's going to be a lot of light behind, light rays, light glow. So first it has to be the perfect tone. So I'm trying to find a tone that's a little bit more blue. All right. So blue works, but it's not really what we're going for. We're going for that forest edge scene. So it's, the more I saturate it, the more yellow it gets. So I have to keep bluifying it. So bear with me. It's still green, so it still has to read as green. All right. And then the question is, where's that light coming from? So what's happening with the light? So let me quickly figure out what's happening with the water. That was a terrible, terrible shape to the wave. What the F am I doing? So I'll do that, and then I'll do this one. Okay. And I feel like every time I shift this, it goes back to being green. All right, and then levels go all the way up. I'm just trying to balance it all out. And then it's mostly just saturation on this level here. So you can see how you have no color harmony, because as I'm moving the slider, things are saturating at different degrees. That's terrible, because it's showing that this orangey scale has no response at all, being green versus red, to the turquoisey green of the water. There's almost no response to it. It's just red just doing whatever it wants. So we have to grab that color of the water and use it on the color used on the character here. And I feel like he's not really an orange character. I feel like it's like more of a red, based off what I saw in the before. So you see how like it's a little bit more red, and you can see how dark it was before. So I'm going to try to select him and shift him back toward that red that I feel like you were using. And that's going to be this way. So that's going to let us unify a little bit more, bring in more cool into the tones to help explain, you know, that all these colors are coming from the same sunlight. The colors come from the light. They don't come from the texture. Write that back. That means that you have to think about the light source when you're deciding on this stuff. And then I feel like she needs to stay green. And then finally, we need to decide. On how dark everything is in this foreground. So either I do this with that lock. So what does that mean when I say the colors come from the light, not from the textures? What is that saying about what the artists and what they make, you know, the mistakes they make? So I'm going to silhouette her just a little bit. It's not so much a silhouette, it's just about, you know, having a good value so that when I bring in that direct white light, that rim light over everything, that outdoor sunlight color, that it's not going to just sit on a white bed. And then for this character, he's just coming out like that. And then I'm just trying to find general core shadows. So burn on midtones. So what do I mean by that? So just sculpting basic forms under the tail, grabbing some white and just using it over some areas just so that I'm preparing for that full layer of white I'll be adding in a second. Before I do that, I have to know exactly where that light is coming from. So what I want to do cinematically, it should be coming from the top right. It shouldn't be some sort of super crazy direct top-down light. Top-down is great, but it's cinematically cheesy. You want something that's a little bit more strong. So it's more of like a ray of light that just shows some of the intensity. Oops, didn't do it in the separate layer. Give me a minute. And that's going to help us brighten the characters. So now see how it's required that they're just a little bit more dark. And then I'm just going to darken the base layer. What's deleted here? Oh, whatever. I'll darken the base layer just like that, just a touch. And then super saturate the water, because the water reflects the light source around, reflects everything, and that should explain where all that tropical saturation is coming from. And then this actually is more like we're seeing, I would get rid of that line. I can see why you like it, but I would get rid of it just because it's not really establishing anything, that little wave. But if you had to have it, you can keep it. But let me just make it a little bit up close. And then just like so. Bear with me. And I'm going to also boost that. So what does it mean? I'm not sure how to word the overall effect of the light on the colors versus texture. In this case, the water needs, thank you, Jessica. The water needs more effect from the environment. It should reflect the dragon forest and the light environment itself. Colors come from the light, not the texture. It means the light environment is not affecting the color of the main subject. Exactly. So when you guys pick colors, you pick colors like, oh, you know, it's a red dragon. I will go and pick red water dragon colors from the, you know, from the color picker. It's not like that, because what's happening is you're not actually picking colors that pass through the filter of the environment, because you guys don't think about the environment. And I'm just showing how the surface of the water gets a different texture, because right now this isn't the horizon line. The edge of the wave isn't the horizon line, it's just the edge of the wave. So we should actually get another rim light passing through the back, because it's not, again, it's not a horizon line, this the edge of this wave. The light gets to pass through it. So that light is going to decide, you know, what color that is. And then once we figured that out, then we can go in and fix all of these colors using that rim light in a second. But yeah, we were like, I've already fixed them, but when in your mind, when you're drawing, that should have been taken care of. All right, and so deselect, lock, and then I'm going to, that water is going to bounce back up and relieve some of this shadow here. But that shadow isn't going to just be relieved with a you know, like a lighter orange. It's going to be relieved with a green, the green of the water shining back upward. So my brush at the moment is soft, so I don't have access to these layers. So you should know that, you know, you guys should be doing this with color, you know, layers intact, as well as managing the textures and the color choice. So don't overwash everything with soft brush like this. Go in there with your brushes and make sure it's a clean job. And just more reflection. Now that things are bright enough, I can actually go in there and fix some of this stuff, because the surface is receiving water. But also still making sure to manage that silhouette so that it makes sense to the scene. And then this whole section of the dress, so you have a lot of options. You can go in there with those direct sunlight glows, those really strong glows, which I recommend, because there's really no way around it. You're so zoomed out that you really don't have a lot of space with your core shadows or your whatnots, and it's more realistic, and you don't have detail to save you, and you need contrast to act fast. I wonder why it's not actually doing what Dodge Tool does, because it's like it's on protect tones or something. Anyway, and then I'm just gonna throw some subsurface scattering on the base of the leaf, just there, as well as the white rim light. You know what, I'm just gonna go use brush tool for that. And again, I'm just throwing that white rim over everything that the light is hitting. And it's not so much rim light as it is just the actual, what light does in the sun in the middle of the day in a pool. And I can't tell right now if I want to have him in some kind of silhouette where he's looking all cute and, you know, darkened, but there is a really nice rim light around him, but he's saturated as well, so it's not a dark scene. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I'm just answering my questions as I ask them. And I need to make sure things are shifting back towards the cool tones. And again, I'm just throwing that white trim over everything as it would happen in the day. Maybe the top of his head is getting a little bit of, I hate Dodge Tool right now. Dodge Tool's failing me so hard. It's not, again, it's not like a fur or something. He has scale, so it's not that he's catching some kind of rim light in his texture. It's scales, it'd be more reflective than anything. It's just the sunlight traveling over top. And then this little character here looking down. So you see how minimal the background is? It can still be very effective while being very minimal. And there's a lot of stuff we could add, like the water ripples. I'll try to add those as well. Or maybe just this side of every section. And I'm tempted to tilt the canvas even more. And then there's showing his color underneath the water, which is very important. Normal. Oof. Okay. And then there's also just his slight like ambient shadow over the water. So darken. Just slight, nothing too extreme, because we've decided that the light is going to be silhouetting him from the back. And then we might mess with the levels of the background even more. Merge down. Just because it's a bright sunlit day, so let me push it all the way up. Just so I know my range. Cancel. Stupid. This is actually very fine. This looks, it looks like a day out, you know, in the beach, on the beach. Like, it looks very acceptable. And let me show you why, because, you know, it just looks like an appropriate color for, let me pick a, for a seaside or characters floating around, and then there's just the white and then the clouds. But you wanted something that was a little bit more like lagoony, I guess, maybe, or something that's a little bit more shaded, kind of like a forest edge. So it still works. And you could bring in best of both worlds and kind of show how the sky color is coming through. But you can, basically what I'm saying is you can go pretty bright with that background value. And then the water as well can go pretty bright. So when you're talking light, you're talking midday, you're talking a cute scene between two characters, you're talking water reflecting, light reflecting on water, you have to start raising your values up. And you see that slight shadow he has in the water now. And then, and this is his tail, so I have to color correct. Now that everything's in the right spot, but I still have to haze out his tail. Still has to look blurry, like it's underwater. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, just like that. And then I'm gonna do a quick motion blur, filter, blur, motion blur, oh, blocked. Filter, blur, motion blur. just to show that the water is splashing. And I'm going to throw a couple more splashes, catching the sunlight and kind of glistening. Filter, blur, motion blur, and then some in the direct foreground as well, just to show that action. And then for the water's edge, if you're at a loss, I suggest you just blur it, because it's a texture that isn't really finite. When it's in motion, it's kind of everywhere. So just blurring the water's edge will help you kind of create like a lens focus as well as a texture familiarity. So you don't actually have to show the edge of the wave. It could just be a little bit more abstract, since you're not really doing much with it. And that's if you wanted to do this. You could still, you know, go back and sharpen it and make it work in some way. I'm gonna blur this, filter, blur. So all this water is moving, and you're showing no motion blur. It's impossible. You need to show how like they're just glooping around in the water. Is that a word? And all this water is catching all that light. And I'm still not happy with the colors because I feel like they could really, ew, 0. I feel like he could be a bit more saturated. So if I do that, I'm gonna have to change the water reflection. Let me see. It's a children's, so the big thing about children's books and children's movies and all that is that everything is hyper saturated, like crazy saturated. So you get to play around a lot with that stuff. And his little fins here could have some subsurface on them. They don't have to stay a dull color. If I could pull it off without it being cheesy as F. Midtones. Okay, so you see how the canvas is a little bit more interesting because it's no longer split down the middle. The canvas is now split down the side, which is very interesting because there's all this cute little tension between the two characters, and she's like kind of suspended. She's about to fall, and he's like all being all cute and gentle. So it's a bit more fun because it feels like things are in motion and the camera tilted with them. So some things about the way you portrayed some stuff, it could really be worked on. So she's too small. She's too small. If this was a character design in a movie, way too small, I would make you go back and correct it so that it'd be a bit bigger. And then I'm going to just fix some of the lasso mistakes and then show you what you could be doing with her, because she doesn't look very Tinkerbell right now, but she's very much a Tinkerbell character. So you need to show how she's also being super cute and playful, and she came over to say hello to her friends, so she's kind of like leaning forward and he's welcoming her. And one thing you could do is just grab the whole thing and move them closer to each other. That'll also close off the scene a lot better. So you have less of that excessive space, which might be too much space in between them. And it's a much better composition this way because you're no longer throwing any characters dangerously close to the edge of the canvas. Any questions? Any questions at all? Maybe adding meniscus could help balance out the composition of some high contrast bubbles or out of focus floaties in the water's foreground. Is the camera half underwater? It seems so. It seems so. I like it. I don't mind it. I like it better when you guys have a clear surface texture, but you can do that. By the way, I don't know what meniscus is. Is that like the water reflection? Is that the water ripples? I would recommend some of that. And the way to pull it off is to just make some little water marks. Just whatever you think the waves are doing. And they can be big or small. They just have to be shaped to the character on which they're fallen. But I don't feel like it's still water. I feel like it's some intense water. Blur, Gaussian blur. And then just blur that in. It should probably be a lot smaller. Is meniscus like boogers? Maybe some here will do. It just doesn't make sense because the water is like moving around, not in a ripply way, and more of an extreme way. So there really isn't much. Yeah, that's a better explanation. The curved upper surface of a liquid in a tube, a lens that is convex on one side and concave on the other. That doesn't explain anything. I'm still extremely confused. Now you guys need to be educating me on this subject. I'm gonna go for more. Hit me with some more of that rim light. Right, and that's the light behind them. And before it was extremely dark, not really doing much. And again, I'm just gonna throw in a slight shadow this way. Blur some of that. And then just get some of this brightness up here to complete the water's edge. And then blur some of that next as well. And then make sure that the shadow is also working. And then I'm going to throw a surface glare, just slight. It's okay, not all lens flares are cheesy. Surface glares are okay when you're talking, especially on a water surface, beach scene, surfs up type of, you need that glare to make things make sense. And then the water, that glare falls on the water surface and reflects back out, especially if you're gonna have a cute little scene between two characters. You want to add even more glow because it adds that cute little glow of friendship. I'm just cracking myself up over here. Over here. And add a bit more rim light. Sorry if the laugh was very loud, boys and girls. I am sorry about that. And this is all really confusing. So I'm gonna just, it kind of looks like a shadow, which is a little bit cute, but I'm also gonna try to. I'm gonna be working out later and laughing my ass off at the gym to myself because of that glow of friendship comment. And then, by the way, I get it, it's cute. It's a clover leaf that is all bitten up, but you just added too many bites. We can't even tell it's a clover leaf anymore. Unless that was my horrible lasso, and then I'm sorry for flaming you. But if that was you, shame on you. Take it easy with the bites. You don't need to have that many. You still want to see that we're looking at a clover leaf. But yeah, if she's supposed to be minuscule, like super tiny, you could go ahead and shrink her. It'll still work. But as a character design, I wouldn't draw such a tiny character. And if she was super, super tiny, we have to crop like right here. So that it's that moment in Tangled when the guy who wants to make little unicorn figurines brings the unicorn figurine right up to his face. And now I'll have to look it up. Sorry, that was from my other class. Unicorn Tangled. Where is it? Yeah, right there. See how close up he is? So it's just like, you know, right up close to his face. and then you should see the little thing, but it's a profile. It's not like, it's not him. You know, it would be really cute, is if the dragon was close up to, so close up to the scene that you know, only his eyes came out through the water. That'd be really super cute. Just like that. So he's just like looking at his buddy. You know, that's kind of cute. And then she's super close, but you don't have to listen to that idea. It was a shitty idea. Anyway, color. Don't want to make his eyes bloodshot. It'll look like he's been in the, you know what's. And I am done with this one. A little bit more environment, a lot more light environment, a lot more color harmony. The composition is a little bit more interesting, and you could crop it as well if you'd like. It'll make it look a little bit more cinematic if you cropped it, since nothing much is happening in the lower decks anyway. But if you want to keep your original shape, that's fine too, as long as it's not a tile. So before, after. Before, the background color was not matching the foreground colors, which were not matching each other, because she's on a whole different level of green, and the background is a different green, and the green of his fins was a different green, and he was kind of like orange, but not really. He doesn't look like a healthy fish. Like if I had a fish that had dull colors like these, I'd be like, that fish is about to die. He needs more iridescent colors, you know, more glow. And then no light ray or no light presence at all in the water. Just because you used white doesn't mean that's light presence. And the saturation is all off for a children's story. And then there was no real atmospheric or motion blur. Like there was no real atmosphere here. And just remember that this is not the horizon line, and this is not the edge of the camera submerged underwater. If you want a camera submerged underwater effect, you have to separate the wave like from the camera a little bit. You have to like do something like that. So filter, blur, motion blur. Something like this, and it's just actually, that's it. And then you see a color difference between above the water and below the water. So you see either more or less. So let's try more. Let's try less. Less works if you're in the swamp. More works if you're in you know, a scene like this, but you'd kind of have to darken the upper area. So that whole edge of the thing like this works. This is fine for that, but it's kind of overrated, honestly. The edge of the you know, half submerged, it's a cheap shot. Every time I see it in movies, I'm just like, oh yeah, whatever. Just go underwater, or make it a transition. Don't hover at the edge of the water and the edge of the thing. It's good for like Jaws. It's good for tension and all of that. But it's good in a moving scene, but not in a still scene. I just feel like it's cheesy tension that isn't absolutely necessary. And then finally, I do suggest that the 4-leaf clover is like fully lit up. No, you don't want to be. You want to be a little bitch. Just because the light is completely on it. So. I know I overdodged. I'm just selecting. Select inverse, and you see how nice it is when the leaf is fully lit up. So see the dark leaf versus the light leaf, it just makes sense to have a light leaf. And the thing with dodge tool is that it does a nice little additional saturate when it illuminates, and also warms things up a little bit. So it kind of warmed things up to the spot I needed them. Like I barely need to move the slider. Just because it warmed things up accordingly, because that light that's shining on them is pretty strong. So before, after. So the thing with light and atmosphere and water is that light doesn't stop bouncing, and water needs to be shown as like this blurry motion, high activity thing. You can throw even more water droplets flying around everywhere, blurred in the foreground. She kind of came by to see him, and he submerged out of the water, and he's like, "Wah!" and then she's like, hello, and it's a lot of action happening, and it's water, and it's daytime, and there's light. So anyway, I hope that helps. For this murky darkness, the biggest issue is that you've taken a camera and put it like on the just bad framing, because now you have all this sky behind them and none of it is visible in this cute little silhouette. But also the story is a little bit weird because they're birds that have just hatched, but there's a big egg that hasn't hatched, and it's like their sister or brother, and it's veiny, and they're like, hey, we just hatched, we're waiting for our brother to hatch, but for some reason little Billy isn't little Billy, and he looks like he's about to eat all of us. So like there's a lot of story happening here for just one shot, and I see like this is a sequential storytelling that could be done in like 3 different angles so that you could sequence them together, so that you could stitch them together, but you're trying to do all those 3 different shots. Birds hatch, or no, it's not like, it's not 3 different story shots, it's just 3 different shots of the same event. So they hatch, they look up, they jump away, and then they look back at the big egg. So the way you did this is you just chose the wrong angle, because you have some establishing shot background visible here. So it's like you tried to have the serenity of a nest. Even look at that grain of a nest in the background. So let's say this is your illustration. It should have just been a tree, pretty clouds, branch, and nest, and that's it. And a cute couple of things here. And the birds are hatching, and the parents are proud. What you're doing is you're telling a very specific story while showing the background. Get rid of the background. This should have been the story. So you see a tree, you have a nest somewhere in the base of the canvas, you got a big old egg, and then you've got some open smaller eggshells, and then the birds are just like, oh my god, what is that thing? It's huge, and the birds are just looking up at little Billy, and that they just hatched. That way we're not looking at the background anymore. The background is no longer trying to force in this awkward fight between the focal point and the background, battling it out. No, I'm going to be a landscape shot. No, I'm going to be a story shot. No, I'm going to be a landscape shot. And then that's just, you're creating this tension between the background and the focal point that makes no sense, because you're neither telling the story about the egg or the story about the background, because I just want to look at those pretty clouds, but I have to look at this veiny egg that's also pretty scary looking, and I want to know what the story is there. So it's just a bad shot for something that's so intense. So obviously it's not about the clouds at the end of the day, it's about the subject matter. So go back to the subject matter, get a low angle shot inside the nest with the birds in the foreground, all darkened, looking up at this big egg that has not hatched yet. Maybe bring in some light so that we're seeing some kind of subsurface scattering inside the egg, x-raying, revealing the big monster inside. Maybe there's, just a hand coming through showing that there's a big, maybe he turns out to be a cute little guy and he really was their sibling. He's just deformed or something. But there's like a hand or some kind of claw inside the egg pushing out. But, you could have done this in a much better way with a much less flat framing, and then not to mention that you just had the tree on the edge of the canvas like that. Get to the front of the class. Tushar, beat their ass. Beat their ass right now. Right, so you need to make sure you don't have this awkward edge here. You just have the bird, the tree, and that's it, and we can see everything. And then let's just pretend little Billy wasn't part of the story. Let's just pretend that it was just 3 birds hanging out. All right, so this is a good shot. Other than the fact that you have bad light environment and bad saturation and color use, because that grain is horrid. Okay, so my critique for this is that it was a bad shot and a bad way to tell the story. You need to split them up You need to have the establishing shot of the nest and the 3 eggs or 4 eggs. And another shot, you need to have the moment of revelation. You basically need to start storyboarding better, you guys, because you guys don't know how to tell a story in a canvas, and you don't know which frame of the story to choose. And the best way to remedy that is to just watch a Pixar movie, watch like the little dinosaur, okay, and just study 5 minutes of storyboarding. You know, what are the best shots? What are key frames? What's the stuff that you can't lose at all, or else you'd lose the story? How did they represent it? All of that. All right. So, any questions at all? The chat got hacked. I have a feeling it was some person that I might have banned. It's coming back for revenge. It happens. Any questions at all before I let you guys go for the weekend? Fellow Zoomers, what is going on? Let me see. She's bringing him weed. Did something happen to the chat? I don't know. Yes, I guess we've been attacked by a group of spammers, but that's okay. Anyway, you guys on YouTube, forget the guys here on live. They're doomed. Anyway, guys on YouTube, everyone watching on YouTube, if you have any questions, make sure you ask them in the comment section. And if you enjoyed today's class and you want to submit your work for, sorry, I just mixed up 2 announcements. If you enjoyed today's class, support me on Patreon. And if you want to submit stuff for Critique Hour, go to Istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here, and submit your work. So just like I said at the start, if you want to submit your 14-day challenge, if you want to submit your illustrations for critique, your studies, make sure you're giving out critique in order to receive critique, or else nobody's really going to know you. So it's a great place to get to know people. And yeah, if you want to support the channel, if you learned something from today about composition, about texture, about illustration, this knowledge sticks with you for the rest of your life. It's not stuff you can unlearn. I've been doing this for a really, really long time and hope to continue doing it with your support. So if you can, please do support me as a $1 patron on Patreon. I know it's a small amount, but it's not about the amount. It's about getting everybody on board to help support this community, like a literal army of support. Thank you to everyone who's supported for more than $1. I really appreciate it. And I'll let you guys go. I'll see you guys on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Look out in October for the October theme challenges. We're going to do some spooky stuff coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. And look out for more items on my store, tutorials and stuff like that, specialized tutorials. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you guys next class. Bye.